Where have you been all afternoon? Raise your right hand again, okay? You solemnly swear that in this proceeding, the information and responses you submit will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I swear.
All right, you may put your hand down, and you already have. Thank you. Mr. Gentry, before we proceed, it's my understanding you want to enter a plea of some sort. I don't know what it is yet, but we will know shortly. Before I do that, I have to make clear to you and remind you that you have certain constitutional rights and protections. These include, first of all, the right to remain silent. That means you don't have to say anything, no statements. You don't have to answer questions. You don't have to submit written paperwork that has your signature, especially papers that admit or confess to wrongdoing. Do you understand you have the right to remain silent?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
You also have the right to a jury trial. That means you and your attorney and the state's attorneys could select 6 disinterested jurors from a jury pool of disinterested citizens. They would hear the whole trial, and they would decide whether you are not guilty or you have been proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. It's called the right to a jury trial. You understand you have that right?
I understand.
You also have the right to confront witnesses. What that means is if you go to trial, the state's going to have to put up witnesses to try and prove their case. You and your attorney would have the right to cross-examine, question, or challenge any witness who would testify. That's what's called the right of confrontation. You understand you have that right?
I understand.
There's also a right called the right to appeal. After all of this is over, including whatever conclusion the case is, ordinarily you could have the right to appeal, meaning that you or your attorney or the two of you together could demand that a higher court review the official record of this proceeding and the evidence and decide what legal challenges you might be making. That's called the right of appeal. Now, it is technical. You'd have to follow all kinds of requirements, including the form and substance of the paperwork and time limitations. But that's what's called the right of appeal. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Also, you have the right to demand that this proceeding, you and the state both have that right to demand that the proceeding be done in open courtroom, public courtroom. Now, because of the COVID pandemic, we've not been doing that recently. However, in order to proceed, my understanding, and I believe I've seen that you and your attorney, with your attorney's advice and consent, you have signed what's called a consent to video conference. That's how this procedure is being done. Is it a true statement that you understand you have the right to demand a public hearing in a courtroom, but that you have consented to this procedure by video conference?
That's true, Your Honor.
Very good. Now, you've also, in order to proceed, you've reviewed extensive documents with your attorney's consent and counsel. And then you've signed those. Now, any documents that you've signed, are we in agreement that indicates that you have agreed and understood what the documents say?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Pettis, have you guided and counseled Mr. Gentry in reviewing and signing the different documents that are part of this proceeding?
Yes, sir.
Also, Mr. Pettis, did you review and sign a document wherein you indicate or you affirm that the state has complied with Article 39.14 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure in that they have provided all discovery required by law?
Yes, sir. I believe I have.
Thank you. Mr. Gentry, let's talk about some more of the documents. One in particular, or a very important one, it indicates, it is called the Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions. That document is at least a couple of pages, and it has this, at the top, it starts off identifying you, and it also says what you're charged with, how you're going to plead. It reminds you of the different constitutional rights and protections that we have just talked about, but this is now in writing. It also mentions to you that the deal that you made with the state is not binding on me as the judge. Particularly, I have the authority and responsibility to say yes or no to your deal. I have to do that one way or the other. I also can give you any punishment in the range of punishment applicable to your particular case or charges to which you are pleading. The document asks separate and different things, including I need to know where you were born, sir.
I was born in Tomball, Texas, outside of Houston.
That means you were a U.S. citizen by birth.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, that document, the Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Courts Admonitions, is there anything about it that you don't understand or that you need questions about?
No, sir. I understand everything.
All right. Now, there's also another document that's important. Well, they're all important, but another particular document, it is where I certify to you that you have, I have mentioned to you the right of appeal, and under the circumstances, because you're making what's called a plea agreement or plea bargain, you will not have a right of appeal. You're giving that up. Did you understand that?
I understand, Your Honor.
All right. Now, you have also signed, what is going to be the essence of this? Mr. Perez, tell me what's going to happen here. How is he going to plead?
He's going to plead guilty to the lesser included charge of Class B DWI. And he's going to, in exchange for 18 months deferred adjudication.
Okay, 18 months deferred. All right.
Your Honor, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. I see that the plea paperwork actually reflects a no contest plea.
It
We'll,
says no
we'll,
contest.
we'll plead no contest, Judge.
That's even gooder, huh, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, let's talk about a couple of things, Mr. Gentry. Obviously, in order for me to consider giving you deferred adjudication, you have applied for deferred adjudication probation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I need you to know and understand that deferred adjudication probation is very beneficial because, for one thing, a no contest plea is considered a guilty plea in this court, and it's sufficient for me to find you guilty. Did you know and understand that?
I understand that.
All right. Now, because you're going to get deferred, I'm not going to find you guilty, but I'll get into more detail on that in a moment. The big thing about deferred adjudication is that you will not be convicted if you live up to 100% of the conditions of supervision. You do that, and the case winds up getting dismissed, and you're not even convicted of DWI first. Now, a DWI 0.15 or higher is a greater punishment level than DWI first. Let's talk about what happens if you fail or refuse to live up to your word and to the agreement that you're making by accepting a plea for deferred adjudication. If you fail or refuse to follow 100%, listen carefully, 100% of the conditions of supervision, then the state may ask me to give you official notice, bring you in for a hearing. And if I decide from what testimony or evidence is brought, I then may decide to convict you. That will follow you the rest of your life. Plus, you'll look at 100% of this punishment, which is fine $0 to $2,000. That'll be wide open. And jail 0 to 180 days. Is that clear, sir?
Very clear.
Very good. All right. Now, to the charge, pardon me, state you have a motion.
Yes, Your Honor. the time, the state would move to abandon the extreme intoxication enhancement and proceed on a DWI first.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. There was somebody,
Where was he?
is there somebody in your office, Ms. Haas?
Yes, Your Honor, 1 second. Okay, let's, is this any better? Okay. Hold on.
We've had more problems of small and large today on this.
Okay, Judge, can you hear me? Judge, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. The state's motion is to abandon the extreme intoxication enhancement and proceed on a DWI first.
I'm having trouble hearing you, but I know what the motion is. Mr. Pettis, any objection to the motion?
No, sir.
All right, the motion then is granted. Officially, Mr. Gentry, you're no longer charged with DWI extreme intoxication, that is with a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or higher. To that charge, how do you plead officially?
I plead no contest.
Very good. A no contest plea is considered a guilty plea. Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you, or promise you anything other than this plea bargain in exchange for the plea, for the your plea of no contest?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. DWI first. You
Yes,
pled
sir.
no contest under the law. I could convict you on that, but I will not. I will honor the agreement that has been reached. First of all, you granted 18 months deferred adjudication. Ms. Haas, tell me the rest of the deal.
Yes, Your Honor. It's going to be an $800 fine plus court costs, 48 hours of community service, restitution of $60 to the DPS Crime Lab,
I'm sorry, say again.
restitution in the amount of $60 to DPS Crime Lab,
To whom?
DPS, the Crime Lab,
Okay. Gotcha.
DWI Education, Victim Impact Panel Live,
All right.
TAP evaluation, and Ignition Interlock for half the term.
And that will be 9 months as a
Yes, Your
minimum.
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
And then a supervisory fee, which I will assess shortly. Mr. Gentry, is this your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Pettis, is this your understanding of the agreement?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Gentry, tell me how you make a living. And more importantly, how many children do you support?
I am single. I have no children, and I'm actually a court reporter for
Really?
the county of Uvalde.
All right. Well, I'm sorry that you got yourself into this. All right. By the way, the court will approve your residing. Are you still living there?
He lives in Medina County, Your Honor, Castroville, and we'll be asking for a transfer there.
All right. The court will permit you to live in Medina County. However, I believe that you'll be able to continue to report to Bexar County by a computer, et cetera, but we'll work that out shortly. All right. Now, what is essentially the amount that you earn with your profession?
Well, my salary is $95,000 per year plus transcripts. So you don't get in line for free for the poor people's free cheese, huh? no, sir.
Well, you're blessed, sir. you're also blessed that you had good representation, and let me just remind you, I don't know how you got a court-appointed attorney with the kind of.
I'm retained, Judge. I'm retained. Sorry.
Okay, this thing said it had an A on it. All right, I would think you were retained. I was gonna question that. Okay. Mr. Gentry, your supervisory fee will be $56 a month. Plus the fine, I'm not gonna accept it at 800, not with the kind of income you have. I'm gonna make that $1,200.
Yes, sir.
However, you have, because I'm punishing you above what you agreed to, which was a reasonable agreement. I just, I get people come in here with probably half of what you're making and they get this kind of fine. So it'll be 1,200 unless you decide you want to, start all over again, as is your right. You
No,
will,
Your Honor, that's acceptable to me.
you will do 48 hours community service restitution. You will pay $50 restitution to, was it 50 or 60, Ms. Haas?
60, Your Honor, 60.
Okay, $60 to DPS, which is probably lab fee. You will in good faith complete the DWI education program, the victim impact program live. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation and the recommendations. You'll have ignition interlock for 1/2 the period as a minimum, which is 9 months. And I have already pronounced your fee, supervisory fee. Now, Ms. Luna, before you, don't leave this Zoom until you've met with Ms. Luna, Maricela Luna. She is our court liaison officer. She will start you off on probation. You're gonna have to come in within 7 days and have your thumbprint placed on the documents as are required by law. Understood?
Understood.
All right. Any questions, Mr. Gentry?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Pettis?
No, sir.
Let me, I'm an old rascal. I've practiced 48 years. Let me just remind you, sir, you are in our judicial system. You're among the people that are very blessed by being a court reporter. The kind of thing you did can get yourself in a hellacious amount of trouble, including where you lose your license as a court reporter. But worse than that, you go out and drink and drive and kill some innocent person. Your life is totally a mess then, because they'd be looking at a minimum of 20 years in prison. How old are you right now, Mr. Gentry?
I'm 25.
Well, think about sitting in a prison cell till you're 45.
Yes.
The best part of your youth and life would be spent sitting behind bars. Family coming to see you locked up like a dog. I hope you give real serious thought to that, because there ain't no need to drink and drive. And I'd even suggest to you, because you already got wrecked this time, I'd suggest to you that you not drink anymore at all, but that's purely up to you.
I'm done with this.
Mr. Pettis, you did a good job for your client. You are now excused, with the exception that Mr. Gentry, you have to meet with Ms. Luna.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gentry, you stay here. Thank you, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.